Newcastle, Saudi Arabia, and referee John Brooks. 1, 10-man Liverpool Football Club. 2, get in! I had to do that. What a win that was. What a game that was. 2 in a row, 10 men Liverpool. I've got full points. And you can't say better than that for spirit now, can you? This is Live at 5. I'm Gareth Roberts. This is Paul Cope. We're here to discuss one of the very best moments to be a football fan, because what an away that was, what an end that was to be a part of. And I'm imagining that it was just as good watching at home as well. So post your comments. We'll try and get to them, but there is a lot to talk about today. First off, Liverpool, a new Liverpool. We all wondered going into this season how it would look, how it would feel, how the season would be. Could they tackle adversity? Would it be heads up or heads down when things started to go wrong? I think that's been answered, mate, in these last 2 games. As I say, you can't say better than. Obviously, there's lots of reasons why it ended up that way, but to go down to 10 men twice and win both times, having been losing, that suggests good things to me. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing.
Well, even the first one, that we're already winning, and we not only hang on, but we scored a goal with 10 men to secure the win last week. That was good. That was a good sign. Can't deny that. This one, for Klopp to even come out and say, 1,000 games of management, he's never seen anything like it. I don't know whether because again, you're at the game, I'm at home watching it. So I get to see all it. Did you see the thing he said about Barcelona?
Oh, no, what?
They asked him on Sky about comparing it to the Barcelona game. And it's funny because they did it to Alisson before. They didn't already interviewed Alisson, and Alisson laughed and went, no, the Barcelona game's all, it's out there by itself, but this is one of the ones we'll remember. When they asked Klopp, he didn't quite say it was better than Barcelona, I don't think, but he wasn't far. Right? He said the thing about Barcelona was, we knew we'd played well at the new camp, but we got beat 3-0, but we knew what we were doing and we were at home. So we had a plan. He went, this is 10 men away at Newcastle. And he referenced the stadium. Dude, looked up and was like,
yeah, the support,
the ground, they're buzzing, they're flying. They beat Aston Villa 5-1 a couple of weeks ago. This is just unbelievable. And it was funny that in his mind, me and you were talking off air about, maybe we talked about it last week actually on the second show, about when you met him and he referenced the Burnley away game.
Yeah.
And it felt like another one of those to me. Barcelona at home in the Champions League is very sexy and romantic and all of that. But away at Newcastle down to 10 men after half an hour and coming back to win, that's a Jurgen Klopp win, I think. Do you know what I mean? That's how it's come across to me.
It was special, mate. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I wrote a piece not that long ago for This Is Anfield, where I was sort of lamenting modern football, worried about how I felt about it, worried about all the things that are wrong about it, and just worried about how I used to feel about football and how I feel about it now. And there's genuinely some times in the last year or so where I was thinking, I don't know whether I might be out. I'm fucking in. I mean, I'm all in after yesterday. Honestly, it was just brilliant. It was my lad Cara's first away game ever. So I've been trying to get him tickets for an age, and we all know how difficult that is. I was very fortunate to be able to get 2 together, take him up to St. James's Park, and I was gutted in how it was unfolding. Do you know what I mean? Because the start was not great.
Yeah.
Obviously Trent booked unfairly, so Gordon's getting the better of him. There's a mistake, it leads to a goal. Then Virgil van Dijk sent off. And, he later said to his mum, you should have seen me dad when Van Dijk was sent off. Because in the ground, I didn't think it was a sending off. But just to go back to my lads and him being at the match with me, I think we've got a picture of that. Might jump up on the telly. He's there we are at St. James's Park. There's me and my son.
Very nice.
It was brilliant for him to be there, because I was thinking, I don't want his first experience of an away match. And look, one that takes your whole day up. You've got to drive all the way up there. You go to the game. You drive all the way back. It's a fair
mission.
trek. Yeah.
It's a mission just getting up to the seats.
Yeah,
in Newcastle.
Well, exactly. I mean, we've been up Snowdon recently, so we were prepared for the steps.
I would say it's harder. Getting up to the steps at Newcastle is harder.
But I was just thinking, this is so bad for him that it's going to go this badly wrong. You know what I mean? Because we all know how that feels when you go to an away match like that. You get beat and you got the long journey home. And look, it looked as though that's how it was going to go. And what I loved about Liverpool, will they give us a special day there and a special moment, and that hopefully really sucks him in, because I said to him, you don't, that's up there. That's one of the best to have been at. To win it in that fashion where you think it's all gone wrong, you've gone down to 10 men, you have to dig in, your goalkeeper's making a world-class save, you're bringing your subs off the bench and they all do well and they all contribute. And then, the cherry on top of the ice and Núñez with the 2 goals, and you win. You don't just draw, you win. I mean, that end went off.
I can imagine.
And it was just, people say the thing don't deal. I'm getting goosebumps here talking about it. People say the thing don't deal limbs, and I can only imagine how that looked looking at it. But being in it, I was turning around looking, and it was just amazing. I must have hugged him about 3 or 4 times. And you know what was lovely about it as well? It was almost like I can't overstate it, honestly. It was almost like a religious experience. I felt proper emotional because of how I've been feeling about football previously. But I also just took a step back at one point, and I thought, I've got my young lad to the left of me, who I'm delighted is here to share this moment with me. And on the right of me, a lot of Reds will know who this is, was Peter Evo. Now, Peter Evo probably doesn't really know who I am, but I know who he is. And he's a Red that's been going to watch Liverpool forever. He's one of those faces that you see at games who loves football, loves the Reds. He's put everything into being a Red. And there he was next to me. And I kind of thought, this is madness, like the young and the old and me in the middle. And I was like, I'm not done, am I? I'm not done. I love this. This is what we're in it for. You've got all the things to be depressed about football about, and all the stuff that's wrong, and the Saudis and Man City and even us not signing everyone we want them to sign and all that kind of stuff. You're in football for moments like that.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's actually really lovely listening to you and thinking about that sort of pathway is a lovely one of you've had your match going experience, you've had all those years, all the stuff we talked about last week, and now just at that moment where you're not sure, that to have that experience with your own son, to galvanize it again. Because I've heard other people talk about this, to then get to watch their experience of it and to see the match through new eyes, through their eyes, and to get to see their firsts, his first away, his first cup, all of that stuff. It does just add a whole new dynamic to it, doesn't it? It's lovely, and it's funny. Just vicariously, I'm made up that he got that as experience. I messaged you last night saying that's the football gods. That that's him now. He's fucked.
Yeah.
Because forever, it reminded me a mad comparison. But I remember going to a casino once, 20 years ago, and my mate went for the first time. And he played roulette and won 200 quid. It's every fucking bet he put on, he won, do you know what I mean? And he left absolutely bouncing, and I was just laughing my head off going, you don't realise that's just fucked you up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to think you can go into casinos all the time now and win loads of dough. And that's literally your lad. And it's, how do you even explain this to someone? His first away game is possibly Jurgen Klopp's best game. And Klopp's been a manager for 1,000 games. And
there are people commenting, on that photo and things like that who I know have gone for years and years and years, much longer than I have. And they're saying, that was one of the best. Yeah. That was one of the best. That was right up there. In the comments, lots of people saying they're still buzzing. Lots of people saying they're still happy. I feel exactly the same way. I mean, I woke up this morning and honestly, I live on me Todd. And even so though, I was literally shouting around the house at times this morning. I kept reliving it because it was such a good moment. But what a lot of people are also talking about in the comments there is the officiating again. And obviously we touched on this last week. I think Eddie Howe as on the one hand, I can give him the benefit of the doubt. On the other hand, I'm wondering if he's being slightly disingenuous. But he comes out and says Trent should have been sent off for, you know, the sort of attempted clothesline on Gordon. Mate, that would have been a second yellow, is what his point would have been. I'm okay if that's a yellow. I'm not okay with the other one. You know, so I'm in the ground and I've watched Gordon send Trent flying into the stand. I've watched Trent sort of like on his arse, sort of roll a ball back in, you know, fuming that he hasn't got the decision and things like that, and then get a yellow for time wasting. And I'm like, well, what about Gordon? The Gordon thing's a foul. So how have we got there? And then, you know, the referee perhaps maybe correcting himself later on knows, maybe, you know, I'm joining dots here, but maybe he's gone, can't send them because I got that wrong. But, you know, we're back to that thing that we said last week. You've got VAR, you've got a fourth official who stood right by that, by the way, and then you've got your assistant referees on top. Why can't they just get the decisions right in such a big game, on the telly, Premier League, it's meant to be the best in the world and all this kind of thing. And again, we're in the ground and we're talking after about big decisions that aren't right.
Yeah. And look, right, I'm going to start off by saying something that no one ever does, right? I'm going to defend the referee.
Oh?
On the basis that, like, I think what we ask for from referees and linesmen and stuff is unachievable. I see this a lot in life generally, like what you're going for. I think I mentioned again on the show last week, watching the interview with Carragher and Neville and Howard Webb talking about the time wasting thing. And when Neville said to him, what are you trying to achieve? He didn't have an answer. And like, I'm like, mate, well, you've already lost. If you don't even know what you're trying to achieve, you can't win. And I think one of the problems is we're asking of referees an impossible standard. One of the things we ask for is common sense. Like, I hear this all the time. Consistency and common sense. And then we get annoyed when the referees apply the letter of the law. And I'm like, okay, the only chance you've got of getting consistency is if they all apply the letter of the law every time.
Yeah.
If you want them to use common sense, that's not the letter of the law. That's context.
Yeah.
And actually what he's done in that game for me is context. And it's what we want. What's gone wrong for me in that? Like, let's say he was one of the best referees you've seen.
Van Dijk wasn't context, though, was it? Van Dijk was letter of the law.
Well, let's come on to that in a second.
There's not even consistency in the same game.
I know, but let's come on to that in a second.
Yeah.
But, Joe, like when we've seen clips of like Australian referees where they're talking people through the game and that, I'm fine if, do you know when he pushes Gordon over and everyone in the ground, I'm guessing, everyone at home, you're like, uh-oh, because it's a booking. That's a booking by the letter of the law. I'm fine if he comes over and he says, I'm not going to book you because I think I got the first one wrong. So of those two incidents, you should have had one yellow card. I gave you it for the wrong thing, but let's just forget that.
Two wrong,
because that's common sense, right?
Yeah.
Because if I book you now, I've fucked up this game and it's my fault. Now, we can have a conversation about getting the first decision right the first time round, but can we allow for a little bit of fucking human error in this stuff? It's humans at the end of the day. And I think I really, really like Eddie Howe, but I don't think, and look, it's a post-match press conference interview and stuff, so he's still heated and stuff. But I don't think the managers help either. And Klopp does the same thing, and all of the managers do the same thing. Because Howe could help out if he went, yeah, the second one was a booking, but the first one shouldn't have been a booking because it was a foul.
Yeah.
The fourth official even said to Klopp that was a foul. So it's like, yeah, and it's weird. I think the weird thing is they always seem to be clamping down on something and then letting something else go. I've already seen a few incidents this season, about barges, and it's like, what's a reasonable barge now? Like there was the one in the West Ham game on Friday where Paquetá shoulder barged someone, but it was like, is it a shoulder barge or was it a shove? Is Anthony Gordon's a shove? Well, okay, what about the one on Jota in the second half? What's going on with this now? And it feels like there's always something new to talk about.
Leo DiMaggio in the comments is really offended that you've used some swear words. Says it's inarticulate and is there any need?
Oh, I'm sorry, mate.
Honestly,
like I'll say, you might not watch our normal show, Lewis. My dad always said you shouldn't swear. It's not big and it's not fucking clever.
We do have another show, by the way, the Late Challenge podcast, where we do talk about anything and everything, not just football. So check that out.
What was his name?
Leo DiMaggio. But I mean, he literally sent like 6 messages to tell me the same thing.
Leo DiMaggio, don't watch your other show, mate.
Desperate to get a response. You got one anyway, mate. Nice one.
You don't like me swearing.
In terms of, and other stuff around the officials quickly, obviously Joe Linton racked up a string of fouls. And it looked like to me at one point that the referee actually spoke to him. Now, my understanding of the rules is that you're meant to get a card for persistent foul, and he doesn't get one. And so again, I take your point about sort of managers and fans get caught up in, you love a team, you live a team almost as well. And so, you obviously you get the rose tinted specs on. But, I'm looking at this a day later and I'm still like, well, I don't get what happened to Trent, and he was walking a tightrope of getting sent off all game pretty much, which Klopp referenced. Whereas he's running around throwing himself into things, doesn't get a card. And so, you start to get the thing of, well, is he a bit of a homer here? And what's that about? And surely, there's been studies of that. It's been shown over time that it is a thing to, sort of favour the home side. Again, we're in 2023 with all these officials, with all this technology, we should be past that. On Van Dijk, in the ground, it looked very generous. I thought he'd got the ball in the ground. And so that's why I was fuming, and that's why I turned the colour at the top, and that's why my lad's laughing at me. I've watched it since I've come home, and I think he takes the man first.
Yeah.
I think he's going for the ball. Now, there's no double jeopardy because it's outside the area. So if it had been in the area, it would have been a penalty, but he wouldn't have got sent off because it's outside the area. A free kick's given and he's sent off. But he did make a genuine attempt to get the ball. And this is another one where it's like, I'm not sure that works, does it? Do you know what I mean? Like that double jeopardy thing. I know you're not getting a penalty outside the area, but the genuine attempt to get the ball thing applies if it'd been another yard or so forward.
Yeah,
but it doesn't when it's further back. Because it's not violent what Van Dijk does, is it? Do you know what I mean?
know, but
I don't even think it's cynical. I think he's going for the ball.
I'm gonna come across like a referee sympathiser on this show, but I don't mean to be, but I think the double jeopardy bit is the bit that makes sense. Because the whole reason the double jeopardy thing was brought in was because you used to get sent off, and like the change is that you don't get sent off if you give a pen away now, isn't it? But you used to get sent off. You used to give away a pen and get sent off inside the box. So what they said was,
got some improvement.
It's been improved. It's like, so look, I think we should stop calling them penalties, right? I saw Neil talking about this, and I've been banging on about this for ages. The penalty box is the wrong shape. Like penalties are mad. Stop calling them penalties. It's a free shot at goal from 12 yards. That's what we're talking about. Like, so what you do is you get a free shot at goal if certain things happen. Loads of times when you get a free shot at goal from 12 yards, that's not a fair, like, punishment for what you did.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the pen we got at home last week, getting a free shot at goal from 12 yards is not a fair punishment for what that lad did to Szoboszlai. He fouled him.
And based on where he is and what his opportunity is.
You're not going to score from there.
We're not going to change all the rules of football, though, are we?
I know, but my point is about the double jeopardy thing. It makes sense to me because what they're saying is, okay, if it's inside the box, it's big enough punishment that the lad gets a chance to score a goal with no one in front of him from 12 yards. But if it's outside the box, that's what you've stopped him having a go at. And the punishment for you without a red card is he gets a free kick with a wall in front of him from outside the box. That's not fair. So if we don't send you off, what does that lead to? Everybody saying, right, take him down before he gets in the box, even if you're the last man.
It's the consistency again, isn't it? I guess. I mean, I think if it was the other way around, when you're watching it back and it was a Newcastle player doing what Van Dijk had done, and you're seeing it in the cold light of day with the emotion taken out, and you see that he's took the man before the ball, we'd be saying what should have been, you know what I mean? So it is one of them. It's more my point again, same as last week, really, is that it just needs to improve how to do it, and drastically so, because every week, like the idea of VAR was meant to, we cut out these conversations on a Monday, and like we're literally having more of them. Yeah. And Sky is dedicating a show in the morning on a Monday. Ref Watch, Dermot Gallagher, to the decisions, because there's that many that's wrong every weekend.
Yeah.
And it's, it feels like something can be done. Darren on Twitter said, a question for Live at 5. I'm sure you'll be discussing Virgil's red. For context, there have been 9 reds in 27 games in the Premier League this season, he says. So far, Liverpool have gone from bending VAR and offside rules to their will a couple of seasons ago to seemingly being a bit in the dark regarding new red, yellow, dissent, time-wasting rules. Do you take that point? Do you think there's like any issue over Liverpool's nous so far this season? Or do you think they've been on the end of... I mean, the McAllister red is obviously a rough decision. It's overturned. That should never have happened. Virgil, we seem to be saying, not everyone's agreeing in the comments, we think that probably is a red. He's going to get 1 match ban because of the nature of it. Although there are some arlasses who were trying to kick up a fuss about how he reacted to it and all that kind of thing, trying to get more. I think they'll stick to it being 1, and I don't think they're going to repeal that either, Liverpool.
No, I don't think they will, and I think that tells you a lot. Because
even the manager didn't fume about that at all, did he, afterwards?
Because even watching it on telly the first time I watched it was another one of them where you're like, ooh, but then you can't tell whether he got the ball, and if he gets the ball, it's fine. The one thing Klopp did say, which made me laugh whenever I hear this, he's like, it's just a coming together. And I'm like, all fouls are just a coming together, mate. Like, that's what they are, 2 fellas coming together. I don't think we were hard done to at all with the Virgil sending off, to be honest. I think there's more. If I'm the manager and the club, and I think all fans, everyone should be asking more about Virgil. Like, that is not something he would have done at his peak. No. He'd have just shepherded him. Like, he'd have just
and even his positioning's not great.
His positioning's off. He's behind the ball. But even those things, I think this is where we're struggling. We'll talk about transfers later, but this is where we actually, I think we need to do something different transfer wise. But I'll save that. The best Virgil van Dijk, even out of position, even slightly behind the ball, that just is not an incident at all. He would catch up with the player, he would jockey him, he would usher him out of play. Nothing would have happened. The fact that he feels the need to dive in so quickly when he knows that he's on the wrong side of him, the only way he can get to that ball is to go through him. That's more of the question mark for me. On Darren's point, I'd have agreed with him until the last 20 minutes of yesterday's game, because I think and then what it was like in the ground, I thought there was loads of announced.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought there was lots of us, and it made me laugh because it was them against us at Anfield last year, wasn't it? Where we all left going, they're a disgrace. They're just like time wasting. Yeah. So to give them a bit of their own medicine was nice, I think. But we did. Even the goalkeeper, Robertson, a few times, very savvy, very saying to everyone, calm down, keep it.
Joe Gomez. Thought Joe Gomez was brilliant.
Was phenomenal. And I'm going to give a shout because I haven't heard anyone. I haven't seen the manager's post-match press conference, but I haven't seen anyone on telly talk about him. Trent, considering he was booked and had that incident in the first few minutes, literally on Sky, Gomez came out to warm up, and Gary Neville, after 5 minutes, is saying, or whenever it was, would you sub him? I think it was 8 minutes. Would you sub him? Klopp's got to really think about subbing him because he's getting done. He's been booked and he knows he's got one more.
Yeah.
And the crowd's on his back. For Trent to manage his way through that game, for us to not concede another goal after that first one, and then it was him at the end. When we were 2-1 up, loads of our players were still trying to score another goal, and he got the ball out on the right wing. Do you remember this? Could you see this?
Took it into the corner.
Took it into the corner, won a throw in, and celebrated like he just scored. Yeah. And I was like, get in, Trent. That to me looked like a lad who his captain's been sent off. I had to think when Virgil went off, who's our vice captain? It's Trent. That was a captain's.
He spoke really well afterwards as well,
I thought he was phenomenal. I don't think he's getting enough credit.
There's obviously the one that he does give, the ref the potential to send them off, which, the pull back on the shoulder, which Gordon,
what I'm saying is in context,
probably made a lot of, to be fair.
Well, and then he makes the mistake for the goal. His head could have completely gone at that point. And instead he gathered himself, had a solid hour's performance with us at 10 men, and had the wherewithal in the last minute to do that.
It's a team showing, isn't it? That's why I said at the top about, I'm really happy about what I'm seeing spirit-wise from Liverpool here. Because I think last season it rolled it rolled down, you know, it went down the plug hole very quickly, and so did morale. Do you know what I mean? And I thought you could see it in lots of games, you know, last season, and that's why we ended up racking up 14 defeats, because the Reds went. You know, I know there's a lot of talk about sort of tired legs and stuff like that, but I don't think the mentality was there either. Whereas this season, you know, to do that twice, you know, to come back from behind, to have the red card. And I really thought that everyone contributed. You know, Elliot contributes when he comes on. Joe Gomez, as we already said, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
and then we've obviously got to talk about Darwin Núñez, but also angry Darwin Núñez. I mean, he's only been on the pitch this season for 44 minutes. He's clearly not happy about that. I can remember seeing on This Is Anfield during one of their pieces post-match after Bournemouth saying he'd gone down the tunnel very quickly and he didn't look happy. Even when he gets a goal at St James's Park, there's a point where, I don't know if you saw this on at home, he's gesturing to the bench. It looked very much like a do one to the bench, which I kind of like, because I think Klopp liked it. I was watching Klopp talk about him post-match, and obviously he likes it because he scored 2 goals and it's been an amazing turnaround, but I think he liked the reaction generally. He was sort of saying along the lines of, he wouldn't have hit the ball like that if he wasn't angry. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And there was a sense of that. There was I'm taking this opportunity. Yeah. Watch me go.
Fuck you.
The celebrations were absolutely brilliant as well. But, you know, you look at, as I say, 44 minutes this season. You know, Elliot's got more time on the pitch than him. Gomez has, Matip has, Endo has, and he's only just signed for us. So you can understand the frustration. I think the other point that's worth making as well is Neil Jones wrote a piece for This Is Anfield a while back, earlier in the year, well, summer, and he said there's a feeling within the club, in this piece he said, there's a feeling within the club that it won't take much before Núñez starts scoring at the kind of rate seen during his last season at Benfica, but there's also an acceptance that his composure and finishing technique can improve significantly too. He says, in particular, coaches at Kirby have urged him to work on his balance and head control, keeping his standing foot away from the ball when striking, particularly across goal. Both strikes are literally that, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? And I think as well, it's worth acknowledging, and there's a lot of love for him among the Liverpool support, and there's a lot of people saying, well, why has he only got those minutes? But, you know, when you look back at his first season, you know, it's 15 goals from 42 appearances, 26 starts. He scores from 12 big chances, but as measured by Opta, he misses 28, which is a lot, obviously. He's only 24. There's clearly, or I think there appears to be a plan for him, and Klopp was hinting at that, and he was saying, look, it's 1 game a week now, but it very soon isn't. What do you think about his role going forward for you know, the rest of the season?
I think his role is a tricky one, just because of the type of footballer he is and our setup. And at the same time, I've never had any concerns about him. Like, I think with anyone like him, I remember going back to last season, that the number of people who think it's a massive concern when a new striker, so 12 big chances scored and 28 missed. Loads of people misread that, I think. When a new striker is missing that many big chances, that's nothing to be concerned about. The thing to be concerned about is when he's not getting any chances. Yeah. And I remember always think about who to listen to with stuff like this. Who are the people you should listen to? And I saw Alan Shearer and Ian Wright both say the same thing. Don't worry about it. Exactly that point. Like, if he keeps playing the way he's playing and getting those chances, he's going to refine his technique. He's going to get better, and he's going to start putting them away. And literally referencing that Neil Jones piece, you can see that. We've seen it before. Do you know what I mean? When Luis Suarez signed for us, and it feels very similar, even though they're different types of players. Luis Suarez wasn't the unbelievable finisher that he became when he first joined us. That refined over time.
Loved the woodwork, didn't he, at one point?
It was unbelievable, wasn't it, at one point? And then, but that just shows you what you can do with good coaching. And Klopp has always talked about this. I remember talking about it when we signed him. There was clearly a bet taken by the club that our coaching could. I'm not looking at the comments. I'm just watching your face. Are we just going to do another comments show?
I mean, we've just recorded on the Late Challenge a show about some of the comments we got, and literally one of the fellas that are referenced in the comment show is in the comments.
Is he?
And he's going on about it's the same joke about put the subtitles on.
Oh, brilliant.
George, you need to watch this week's Late Challenge, mate. You get a good shout on there. We still don't think you're funny. Lots of people saying about various things about Nunes. We've got Darwin needs to improve his English language skills. I think that's why Jurgen is reluctant to start him, but he'll get more chances, no doubt. Now, he did say, thanks for the support, didn't he?
It was funny, it was funny. Because Alisson translated
they were all
it
laughing
for him. But I've seen that, like, he's been doing, I think Klopp referenced in pre-season, his English has come on load. Yeah. So I think it might just be a confidence thing. You often get that, don't you? Like, footballers and managers who are like, they can speak English fine behind the scenes, but when a camera's on them, they're like,
Bobby was a bit like that, wasn't he? He seemed very like reluctant to get involved. I mean, it's Villa on Sunday at home, tough game, good side, and it still feels quite sort of definitive in terms of like how we feel about the start and all that. So do you start him on Sunday? Here's a lad who's just come on and won you the points at Newcastle away.
No, so this is the thing I'm saying about the role. Like, why was he so effective when he came on against Newcastle? There was loads of space for him to run into. We could knock the ball long to him. We could put the ball over the top. We could play through balls for him. Will he be that effective when you're playing against a bank of five and a bank of four in front of him and the short spaces? This is the beautiful thing about and again, I want to talk about this when it comes to transfers, the unbelievable job our football club has done in replacing that front three that we had, one of the best front threes you've ever had. The job we've done, we need to talk about this more, is unbelievable. The firepower we've got and the players, the variation, the combinations we've got anything for any game, and that showed you. So I would rather keep Nunes back and, for right now, for explosive substitute appearances, and let Gakpo and Jota play that central role. Although saying that, there is a conversation about Nunes playing on the left, where Diaz is playing and alternating there as well.
And Gakpo wasn't that influential yesterday.
No.
There's that to consider. Also, Jota, I think would probably expect to be starting, but didn't start, but then was impactful when he did come on as well. So, there's huge conundrums at every term because of the amount of firepower.
But that's why Klopp referenced the games. He actually laughed and went, we have this conversation every year.
Yeah.
Because in this first spell before the first international break, there's only one game a week. So everyone does he's not getting enough games. But then European football kicks in and you're playing every 3 days. Everyone's going to get their games, and there will be plenty of games for Nunes to start in, and because of the 5 sub thing, there's always opportunities in every game for everyone. Plus, there's so many things changing about football that I don't think we pay enough attention to. 5 subs plus, most games are going to run to 95, 100 minutes, maybe more now. That's a lot longer. If you come on the 60th minute, it's like a whole half to play.
Yeah. There's a vote there on the live on YouTube right now. If you're watching that way around, you're not listening on a podcast or watching later on. There's a vote there. What's the biggest priority this week? Because obviously the transfer window is closing on Friday, 11 p.m. And the choices are a centre-back or a midfielder. As it stands, as I read it right now, 74% have gone for a centre-back, 26% a midfielder. Are you in agreement with that? Because obviously we saw another appearance from Endo, another opportunity to judge him positively or negatively or, neutrally. What's your feeling on that?
I did Matt Ed in last week, didn't I say? And I wouldn't answer the question because
it didn't say both.
Get both, yeah. And he said to me afterwards, but if the priority, one's got to win.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you're right. I think it's a tough one when you say what's the priority. After the weekend, I'd edge towards centre-back. And do you know what? I was thinking about this during the game and after the game. Not just necessarily a centre-back, maybe a utility defender who can play across the back line. But to go into the transfers thing, I think what we should be doing now is, having seen Virgil for the first few games of this season, I think we're getting lost a bit. I think they've got into their own heads about transfers. I'd be going out and buying another Virgil van Dijk Like, go and buy the best centre-back we can buy. Because your worst case scenario, right, is that Virgil van Dijk becomes your second best defender. Now, if this
is a Virgil standard player coming now, knowing he's not first choice?
But it would be. I think you'd be saying to him, "You are first choice." Basically, your job.
Virgil's the captain.
Yeah, but you play with Virgil.
Right, I get you. Okay.
So you push everybody else. You push everybody else down.
Or is he left-sided or right-sided, left-footed or right-footed?
I'd say you want to, if you can. Joe, if I'm picking dream, but then I can imagine the club going to me, all right, it's not a fucking catalogue here, mate.
Play everywhere,
mate. I could do the whole show about 1 foot or 2 foot. It's ridiculous that they're not all 2-footed. But if you're picking again predominantly a left-footed centre back with pace who's big and dominant, can maybe push out to left back if needed, because Van Dijk can switch sides, no problem. If that becomes your centre back pairing, your first choice, then you can still go and win the league. You push everyone down in the pecking order. Joe Gomez can cover both your fullbacks. And I think his performance yesterday elevates him in the pecking order for me anyway. I've been thinking about this for weeks. Konate has almost become the de facto second choice to Virgil. But I still think Gomez's ceiling is higher than Konate's. If you can get Gomez back to where he was a few years ago, he's a better centre-back than Konate. Especially
Konate's the other side though, isn't he? Like playing about 3 positions.
But that's my thing. and it was interesting that they made this, I think Carragher made the point on telly, and I've been saying it for weeks. For the type of football we want to play now, and this system with Trent as a hybrid fullback, Gomez is your perfect right-sided centre-back. Because he's a half right-back, half centre-back. He's perfect for that if you can get him back to his best. So anyway, I'd be going all out for the best centre back you can buy in that place, and I'd be buying a centre mid as well. I do like the way I think Carragher thinks he's got some influence over the club at some point here, because he made the point on Sky and then he said it on Twitter afterwards, like, go and do 2. Go and do it this week.
I liked what he said.
I did. I'm 100% behind it.
My thing about what I saw yesterday is that those kind of moments can be definitive in terms of how everyone feels collectively. And like, I just think about, like, you see little bits of, like, the inside Anfield or, the equivalent when it's away, and you get to see bits. But I think when the door shuts and when the cameras have gone, or when they're on the coach later or the plane or however they got there, imagine how buzzing they must have been after winning a football game that way. And equally, it wasn't quite like that against Bournemouth, but they still had to dig in. It still went against them early on and they turned it around. So I think right now, the spirit's in the sky, Soz. But you know what I mean? They're absolutely buzzing. The fire and the start looks good now when you look at it on paper. And okay, there are things, as we highlighted last week, that we're not happy about systemically, and things we're not happy about with the squad. I do think there's a very much a point in what Carragher said about, we've got a good side now. We've got players who've won the league, players who've won the European Cup, players who've got nous. I got a great fact through this week, and I'm glad I'm able to crowbar it in right here, right now. So a mate of mine, Mark Campbell, messaged to say that he noticed when we were playing Bournemouth that we ended up with 5 international captains on the field. And so, that is where some of this spirit is going to be coming from. Do you know what I mean? They are leaders for a reason for their international football, and they're the leaders for us too. So, Holland, Scotland, Japan, Hungary and Egypt all on the pitch against Bournemouth. So I asked the club's statistician, Jed Ray, whether this was the best, the most international captains we'd had on the field at one time. And he said, like, I think this is a great spot. And he said, and they're all permanent captains as well. And he said, I haven't had a look at it, and bear in mind that players from overseas only really flooded the British market in the Premier League era. I can't see this having been achieved by Liverpool before. So there's a good basis, there's great players, there's all that attacking talent. We've got a brilliant keeper, as Carragher referenced. I think to not just be able to go out before that window closes on Friday and get the 2 more that keep everyone buzzing, make it feel like we're going for it, and make it not feel like we're going, just a bit of a transitional season, this. Because City will disappear over the horizon if you let them. But equally, we've given them a good run for their money a couple of times. We've won it over them as well. And some of the players that did that are still there. And they'll know when it's on and they'll know when it's not. And I don't think they're going to sell Mo under any circumstances in this window. I think he's easier to stay. There's people looking for anything and everything with him at the moment. You know, his agent hasn't come out and denied it again.
Yeah.
And someone said to me yesterday, he seemed to just get off at the end, but he didn't stick around with the celebrations. I didn't see that one way or another. I was still jumping around with my son, so I don't know. But his actual performance on the pitch was brilliant, I thought. And it was a great ball through for Núñez for the winner. All game, he looked like a senior player, a brilliant player, a player who can win your games. Howe referenced him afterwards. So while we've got him, and while he's at his peak or maybe just past, but, you know, still at a brilliant level, same with Van Dijk, you know, let's go and get those couple of players. I totally agree with what Carragher said.
Yeah, I'm with you. And he said something else, which I think a few people are saying, and we're all on board with, is that I think it's a travesty if you allow a player like Mo Salah, a player like Virgil van Dijk, a player like Alisson, after them winning what they won with us and being in that side, if you allow their last couple of years, especially for Mo, because Joe, if he doesn't go now, he's going to go at some point, and he is 31 now. If you allow his last couple of years to fade away in a Liverpool shirt, I think it's a travesty. And I'd go as far as saying it's a disgrace. And I think the club owe it to him. Joe, they put all that effort into keeping him. What's the point if you're not going to go out
him
and
the
then
highest paid player, all that, you know, that faff around getting him to sign.
Yeah.
So he's signed, you've got him. He's a match winner. Put the building blocks around him to get the best out of him.
100% to win a league. That's what he's there for. We know what he's like. And I think, Joe, on that point as well, context matters. Look at how the season started. Arsenal are wobbling already. We haven't even started the Champions League yet. Mm-hmm. Their fans are worrying that Arteta's dabbling with things and they've bought players, it's not quite working. Who else looks like a threat? City could just walk away with this. But they looked, even Joe, away to Sheffield United, it took them another Rodri screamer to win it for them, like near to the end. And I think if we go out this week off the back of this,
De Bruyne is out as well.
De Bruyne is out. They've got little things going on.
And you can pray for little, like the things that you can never control, and maybe you shouldn't pray for, but like just little things like, you know, a Haaland injury or something like that. But even
without that,
you know,
mate, like
I know they've got a mad squad, but what I'm saying is, you don't want an opportunity to present itself where you could have won the league, but because you didn't do enough in the transfer market, you hindered yourself to the point where you don't take the opportunity. Like one of the worst moments for me being a Liverpool fan is when Leicester won the league, because I was just looking at it going, how do you win the league with that point total when we've clocked up this, we did that, we didn't win it, and we weren't ready to take advantage of the opportunity. Be ready to take advantage of the opportunity. And look, it's heartbreaking to get 90 odd points and not win leagues with it, but that's the reality we're in. We know what City are about, so almost like, let's do our level best. Do you know what I mean? And like Endo, I want to still give him time, but equally the other side of my brain's going, I'm not sure about his level here. And I know it's early to write him off. I'm not writing him off. I think he will improve, but at times he looked like he was a little boy lost there. You know, that's how it looked to me from the stands. I haven't watched the whole game back, but I'm like, you know, can he toil and do the stuff that we need him to do all season long? I'm not sure. I think, and I know we you know, people are saying in the comments we've got and but he's 18 years old.
Yeah, like you can't,
and like we need something in between.
Yeah, and look, this is the bit I go back to. I've finished the point on the context thing. The other context point is, there's a reason no football side has ever won 4 leagues on the run in this country. It's fucking hard to do, and we're talking about some of the greatest sides of all time, including Liverpool and Man United sides. It's not a foregone conclusion that City can just do it. But we have to make that not a foregone conclusion. And if this, with the start we've had, with that comeback, we beat Villa at home, we've picked up 10 points out of a possible 12. With that start, you've got Chelsea and Newcastle out the way already, away from home.
Yeah.
City, if we go out and spend that 100, if we just take the 110 million we bid for Caicedo and buy 2 belters with that, a centre midfielder and a centre back, 100% City and Guardiola will be shitting themselves, because they'll be looking over their shoulder and all of a sudden they'll be thinking, these are the ones who can challenge us. We know what they're like. We know what these bastards are like to go up against in a 2-horse race. We don't want that this year because we're tired. We did a lot to win the treble last year.
Yeah.
They don't want us on their tails.
Of course they don't.
And then the other bit about the transfers is, going back to, I think the club has got in their heads a little bit. I think everyone forgets that we bought Fabinho for £40 million from Monaco. It's not like Fabinho was the number 6. Everyone in the world was saying, you need to buy him, he's a belter. Same with Rodri, when City bought Rodri. Who was saying, there's this lad in Spain, he's unbelievable, go and buy him. We bought, I know everyone's like getting on the club's back about the lack of ability in the transfer market, and I know everyone will say, release clauses. Szoboszlai and McAllister, unbelievable signings. It's not that long ago we bought Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo. Bargain buys when you look at what we got compared to what other clubs are spending, what Man United were spending on attackers at the same time. To say that we can't go out and find a number 6 and a centre-back for £110 million between them that would add to what we've got, to me is insane. So I think they need to get out of their own heads and just go and do it.
Yeah, Mabel in the comments says, wishing for an injury is not the way. I totally understand what you're saying, but equally, this sort of unstoppable thing that force that City feel like sometimes, we've had enough of them. I'm not wishing for it quite, but you know what I mean? But equally, seeing our manager saying in the press conference, pre-Newcastle, talking about sort of we need to be lucky with injuries. I can't accept that. Do you know what I mean?
But that's what annoys me. We don't need to be lucky within. And I've seen people on Twitter, saying that £110 million bid for Caicedo was a bluff. It was the owners. It was not a bluff. It was the owners saying.
Where's the positive PR about going for someone and not getting them?
That's my point on it. I couldn't agree.
I couldn't
agree more with you or disagree with the bluff. But let's assume it wasn't a bluff, right? There's £110 million sitting there. So if you're Jurgen Klopp, and there are more and more people criticising Klopp now, I've noticed. Yeah. Because if that money's sitting there and he chooses not to spend it on a centre-back and a centre midfielder, the world is going to turn on him. As soon as we get an injury, we literally brought on a young lad at centre-back yesterday. Yeah. We don't need to do that. Go and buy someone.
I know there's people in the comments saying about, like Lavia's only 19 and things like that. So why can't you rely on an 18-year-old? And, there is that balance, isn't there, of Quansar, or however you say his name, coming on yesterday. You're made up in a way to see him on the pitch because it's fantastic for him. But equally, you're like, whoa, that's a big shout in this game, at this point in this game. And it's like, there's a constant balance. But it does feel like, and I think we've touched on this before, and I've heard other people touch on it as well, about, is Klopp, is the sporting director, is even FSG, we don't know the full dynamic about all that works. But are they just too it's got to be perfect or we're not doing it all the time? And it's like, Endo's obviously not perfect and they've moved away there, if you like. But you wonder whether they've gone off the scale too far one way, do you know what I mean? I just worry, is he fast enough? Is he physical enough? What I noticed too, unsurprisingly, is he was in the right spots at the right time quite a lot of the time. But then equally, he didn't look that comfortable on the front foot. He was sort of quite safe with his passing and things like that at times, I thought. And then other times, you saw people go past them. Physically, I think he's still struggling with it a little bit. He said himself it's much different than the league he's come from. So I don't know. I mean, the prices that Liverpool get quoted for players are obviously mad, and I get that. And everyone knows as well, the Caicedo problem is, oh, you've got that in the bank, have you? Ready to go. Well, you want him, do you? Well, he's this. And I just wonder, with this risk-averse thing or trying to achieve perfection, in this particular window, before it shuts on Friday, they just have to come together and say, this time around, we're going to have to cop for it. Everyone knows we've got the money. We're going to have to overpay a bit. And it's not the perfect transfer this time around. We try and achieve perfection next time or another time or in future. But always bargain hunting and always trying to achieve perfection, I don't think is going to work in this particular window right now.
No. And well, there's two sides to that as well. One is the point you've just been making, but the other one is also, we've had 2 summers on the bounce now, 2 years on the bounce, where we've chosen not to buy and it's backfired.
Yeah.
So if you do it again and it backfires, if I'm Jurgen Klopp and I'm looking at that and I make that, if I roll the dice and choose not to buy again, I know I'm putting my head on the chopping block with the fans more than anything, because there will be more people going. You could have bought someone and you chose not to, and that's on you. And this whole search for perfection thing, I understand how they've got there psychologically, but I just think they need to roll back a bit and remember the lads they've bought. Because the Bajcetic point, I understand people saying, yeah, Joe, we could have bought Lavia, but even when we were linked with Lavia, there was a reason we didn't want to pay that much money for him. It's because of his age. And go back to, Joe, one of the best players, he will be one of the best players of his generation, if not already. Trent Alexander-Arnold came into the side at that age. We all witnessed him grow through making mistakes.
Yeah.
Guess what? We didn't win the league and the Champions League in the years he was making those mistakes regularly. Where did we? Like, he grew into the side, and then the years he was at his best, and I know already, I can already hear people shouting at me, yeah, but he started making mistakes again last year and he's older and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but the mistakes he made I'm thinking about Joe against Palace, against Man United in his first years, he grew, and then we became so good with him in the side that we won the league and the Champions League. If you put Bajcetic in there now, you're going to see the same pattern. Yeah. Probably. It's unlikely he's just going to come in.
He looks good. Like, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love seeing him play, and I love seeing him play regularly. And the level he had at that age, and the confidence, and to even wear like, and loads of people will hate me for saying it, but like, I watch him at times, not every time, but at times, and I thought, is there a bit of Gerrard in him? Yeah. Is there a bit of Gerrard in him? And look, people say, well, don't do that. Don't compare an 18-year-old to an absolute legend of the club. But there is something about him, 100%. I can't wait to see him back on the pitch. But what I'm saying is, in the here and now, in this season, like going back to the Carragher point, there's an opportunity to challenge now. There's an opportunity to win stuff this season. And it's balancing that between, I don't want to get too carried away with this point about transfers, because my other point would be, it's disastrous for Liverpool if they miss out on the Champions League again. 2 seasons running revenue-wise is not great for the club. I don't think that's going to happen. What I've seen so far this season, I was really worried before we kicked the ball. Now we've kicked the ball a bit, and I can see the spirit, and I can see the squad, and I can see the firepower. I think we'll be all right for top 4, particularly when I've seen other teams as well. Yeah. So I don't think it's that bad, but equally, don't do the settling thing. Don't do that'll do. Do you know what I mean? I always want Liverpool to try and be the best Liverpool can be, and that's what they've been doing, and that's what they did when they tried to win the lot. And okay, they didn't do it in the end, but fuck me, did they come close? And like, they deserve every credit for that. And for some reason, the weird people on the internet won't give them credit for that. I will. That was some season, that was some side. They put everything into it. It wasn't quite there. And then we fell away. But as we go back towards hopefully something like that, don't hold anything back. Like, don't be letting the window shut at 11 o'clock and thinking, I should have done something. We could have just bid for him. We could have got him. Do you know what I mean? I hope that's the feeling in the club. I hope there's not that resignation of, oh no, we're done. I used to hate that when you tune into all those last minute transfer shows on Sky or on the radio or whatever, and it'd always be, oh yeah, I just spoke to Ian there and he's got off.
There's no one there. Yeah. I know, they were depressing. What I mean? The lights are all off at Melwood. Yeah. It's just a fella locking up the gates. Yeah, we should get his comment.
Yeah, they've gone home. They're definitely not doing it, and that's it. They're done. And you're like, well, why aren't they trying right till the last minute? Come on. Yeah. Let's have a little look at the comments. Just while I'm trying to plough through the comments as well, I just want to give a shout for the fact that I'm doing something for charity. I am kipping on the Spying Cop at Liverpool at Anfield to raise money for good causes in Liverpool around homelessness and around vulnerability. So if you can sponsor me to do so, please do. Go and find me on Twitter. I'm at Robbo Heighton. It's pinned to the top there. Kip on the Cop. You can get on my Just Giving page and you can make a donation. It's for a good cause. I am going to sleep the whole night on the Cop. September the 9th, I think it is, that I'm doing it. So there's still time to donate. As I say, it's a good cause. I'm desperate to be the best fundraiser for it as well. Just do that. I've got that competitive spirit going on. So if you can get involved with that. Comments wise, Fraser Football just commented here saying, I was at this game and the limbs were unreal. I would totally back you on that. I was saying that earlier on in the show. It was absolutely brilliant to be in that end, and I felt very lucky to be there, and certainly with my son for his very first away game as well. There is lots of positivity going on in the comments too as well. I mean, you can get a bit bogged down with transfers and stuff like that. Main amateur there saying, I love the McAllister sign, and Szoboszlai is going to be world class real fast. I thought he really showed again, like the engine on him is unbelievable. Like you saw how saying, it's arguable that Liverpool were better. It's not even arguable, it's fact, isn't it? Liverpool were better when they were down to 10. And I thought Szoboszlai was a part of that because he was everywhere again, like he was against Bournemouth. And you just keep thinking there's loads more to come from him as well.
He's a perfect example of, people are criticising the club, and we have as well, and I have, like, for the way we've gone about transfers this year. But we've bought him, and people can go. There was a release clause. No one else was... Who else was competing with us for him? He's unbelievable. I was laughing to myself last night, though, because I was thinking the way we still call boss players like him a Rolls Royce, don't we? He's a Rolls Royce footballer. And I'm like, but if I told you in this day and age you can buy any car you want, you wouldn't pick a Rolls Royce, would you? No. So why are we still saying Rolls
Royce?
Isn't
it a bit slow and cumbersome?
It's the opposite of what he is.
Yeah.
Like he's not like a dead slow old car, but he's phenomenal. He is It's very rare because I do really like McAllister, and he'd be one of those players who in our system does really well. But it's so rare you see a footballer come into a side and immediately everybody's like, what a player this lad is. Like he's got everything. He's got absolutely everything you'd want in a footballer. I know he's a completely different position and completely different player, but it reminds me of when Torres signed, and you're just like, straight away you were like, why did no one else want to buy this lad? Why is no one else taking a chance on him before? He's unbelievable. And I think we need to, if I could go and speak to the management and be like, just get into the mindset you got into when you bought him. Do you know what I mean? Because nobody else is looking at him and you bought him. So there's another lad out there that is boss.
There's a balance though, isn't there? I mean, I get sucked in I get sucked into the transfer talk quite a lot, but equally sometimes it spits me back out the other way as well. And I think about, like when we're running around Lidl last minute and we're getting like, Kabak and Davis and things like that. And, the lad Artur, another last minute panic buy that was absolutely pointless and a complete waste of money. So that's the balance, isn't it?
Yeah, but they were the opposite end of the spectrum, weren't they? That's not what we're asking for.
No, we're not.
We're asking for them to spend 110 million. And we know it's
We're asking them to shop at the top end.
We know it's there.
Yeah.
We're asking you to go and spend 110 million pound on two players. You can get two boss players for 110 million pound. I don't care. Talk about the market all you want. City have just bought Guardiola for 77 million pound. That's the top end of the centre-back market, isn't it? So you can't tell me we can't go and buy a centre-back for 60 million quid and he'd be unbelievable. There'll be a boss centre-back out there. We don't know who they are, but there'll be a boss centre-back there for 60 million. And that leaves you 50 million to spend on a centre-mid.
We should wrap it up there. There will be another show from us on This Is Anfield this week, so look out for that. As I mentioned earlier as well, we do our own podcast also called The Late Challenge. Not really about football, it's a bit about anything and everything. So check that out if you like me and Kopi. We do content over there as well.
If you don't, just to reiterate, if you don't like swearing, it's probably not for you. It's probably not.
And if you don't like us, it's not for you either.
Can we make a point of that actually?
Yeah.
If you come and watch us anywhere and then tell us we don't like us, I don't really get that.
There's a strange fella following us all over the internet saying he doesn't like us. Just stop watching me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not bothered. I love this comment just to finish up this live show today from Mikey Shields. He says, Bill Shankly, and people are always making up Blag Bill Shankly quotes, aren't they? And here's another one, but I get why he's done it. He says, there are two great teams in Liverpool, Liverpool FC and Liverpool with 10 men. I absolutely love that one, Mikey. Thanks very much. Thanks to everyone who's dived on and put all the comments there. There's absolutely loads today, more than we could get through. We tried to get through all the main issues. Hopefully you like what we're doing with this show. Let us know, share it, shout out to other Reds and all that if you spotted it and you liked it. It is also available as a podcast. People keep asking that. So it is as a podcast as well on This Is Anfield's podcast feed. So just look that up. You'll be able to find it wherever you normally get your podcast. But we are here every week, live at 5. So come and get involved. Talk to us about the issues. There's always issues. There's always things to talk about. That has been Live at 5 from This Is Anfield and The Late Challenge.